with the center punch mark down. At this stage we need to check our piece against the drawing. Here's the drawing we made from the lower jaw. We made the leg and then we drew the jaw, the top of the jaw, both sides, and then we've got a line for the vice stop. So when I look at this, I'm seeing the vice stop is about in the right place. I can make that work. I would like the tip of the jaw to be bent a little further. I would actually like it to be touching the lower jaw with a little clearance at the back, meaning that when this is open slightly, it will become parallel. At this stage you can see if it's open it will be flared. So I've got to bend a little bit more of the jaw. If I needed to grow the leg a little bit, this outside or the upper jaw does not have the recess for the spring, so I can forge this and stretch this, moving this vice stop around a little bit. If that was correct, but I needed to grow the jaw a little bit, move it up, then I've got stored material in here, and I can just stretch that a little bit and get a little bit more of a gap. Both of those at this stage look fine, so I'm going to leave them where they are. All I'm going to do is bend that jaw a little bit and clean up that transition area. Try the forging again, and you can see that the jaw now fits against the chalk mark, so I'm feeling like the rough forging is done, and now it's time for a little bench work. Because the leg of the vise is tapered, I need something to hold it securely in the vise while I'm working, and in this case I've got a piece of offset angle iron with a piece of 1/2 inch half round welded to the back, and as that goes in, that will articulate and grab hold of the taper to the leg of the vise. We're going to start with the lower jaw. The lower jaw contains the 2 outer knuckles. Each knuckle is 3/8 of an inch thick, where the center knuckle is going to be 1/2 inch, total 1.25 inches. Before I can start my hinges, I need to create a datum, and the datum basically is the edge of the leg of the vise. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to file the hinge barrel down until it's level with the edge of the vise. Then I can measure from there and create my 2 knuckles. I'm going to get the bark off with an old farrier's rasp, bark being the scale here. That will blunt a decent sharp file. Once I've got the 2 datums correct, and I'm measuring here now, and I am 1.25 inches, so those are looking correct, I'm going to use an adjustable square, and I'm just going to dial in. I want 3/8 plus a little bit, and that is going to give me my clearance on both sides. I like to use a 10-inch hacksaw with a fine tooth blade. The fine tooth, when it's resting on top of a round bar, won't jump around as much as a coarse tooth. 10-inch, just personal preference. With the 2 cuts made, down to the line at the back and through to the front, I'm just going to take a small punch, and you can see that our slot punch weak area is yielding nicely, and that should just fall out. There it is. I'm using a 10-inch single cut file, and I've taken this to a belt sander and I've removed the teeth on one side, so it's a safe edge file now, and I'm going to use this to get rid of the rag in the center knuckle area. The upper jaw, same thing. We're going to file the hinge barrel down to level with the edge of the leg of the vise, creating a datum, and there we'll measure in and isolate the material for the center knuckle. So we've filed our datums level with the edge, and as I measure this, I can see that I'm slightly proud of 1.25 inches. Looks like 1 5/16, so not quite. So I need to bear that in mind as I am making my measurements, and knowing that I'm going to have to come in here and clean these up if I want the 2 to be identical. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay off 5/16 or thereabouts, and then I'm going to come in, make my measurements, and that's going to leave me the 1/2 inch for the center knuckle. I'm having to work to one side of the vise jaw just to give myself clearance for the filing vise jaw. I'm going to put a spacer in here so I don't rack the jaws, and both pieces are solid. We cut for the knuckle. Now we need to cut down here to get rid of this side piece. We need to know where to make our cut. I'm taking our lower jaw, I'm just going to pin the 2 together. I'm just going to draw around that. and then I know my cut is going to be about on that line. So we isolated the material. This is our line at the back, so we've cut down to there. So the back side of this cut must be in line with that, and then the front is going to be in line with the line we just scribed. After cutting down a clearance cut for our outside knuckles, I just need to get the two cuts to line up. So I'm coming in from the side, just to release the material. Once we've filed the knuckle smooth, I'm just going to bring in the lower jaw, put that in, get a pin, and I've got clearance there, or as much as I need for this vise to work. I like to put a slight chamfer around the knuckle. A couple of reasons. First is the inside of those corners is probably not dead sharp, and that is. So getting a little clearance there would be nice. And secondly, I think it gives it a nice look. I have a little more work to do. As I look at this, I think I'm a little wider here than I am at the back, so I'm going to make sure I can take this out first. We're getting very close now, so our fit is very good. Our edges match up quite nicely. I've just got a little bit more work to do, maybe just at the root here, and then we'll move on. So here we are. The shoulders have been done, so let's just offer the two up. A little rough, and I can see some wear spots just on there, so I'm going to take those out. And that's where the save edge comes in fine, because my save edge will go up against the knuckle, and then I can file against the shoulder without affecting the knuckle. So we've done a bit of work. There's our vise, bit of plate in there. Looks like it's just going to grab in the center a little bit. You can see just a little bit of material there, so I've just got to work in the center and bring that down. But that is my filing vise. For the spring, I've taken a piece of 1/4 inch round, just normal mild steel, hot rolled, and I flattened it to 3/8 wide, 16th inch thick, and then I put a slight bend on it. I got it hot, and then I quenched it. So this is the test. Will this act as a spring? And the bend seems to be just fine, so yes, that is going to work nicely as our spring. It's not under much duress